Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another exclusive Boom Room interview. I'm Sasha with Arcane Ventures. I'm here with my good friend and colleague Carmelo, and today we are speaking with Prashant, the CEO and co-founder of Spheron. Spheron is the first DPIN-based programmable compute network with unique technology specifically around AI agent applications. Prashant, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing, brother?
Good man, and thank you so much for a kind introduction of Spheron.
Yeah, it's pretty solid, right? That's a good
Yeah,
intro.
yeah.
So today we plan on talking a lot about LLMs, CPU, GPU, XPU, and how this all applies to Spheron. But before we dive deep, we like to start the Boom Room in a similar way every time, and that's really with you and your story. So if you don't mind, give our audience a bit of a background, like who is Prashant? Where do you come from? What's your interest in the world of crypto, and how do you end up here today with Spheron?
I think my background is quite deep, deep. Like, so I have to go back a lot of years because I've spent like close to around 12 years in the industry now, and traveled different location, different places, different world. And but just to kind of get started and give a very high level preview about me is like I've started my journey from zero. When I say zero, that basically means like I I I did not went to any kind of Ivy colleges or anything like that. My journey was like everything has been hard learned in a very hard and way. Over the years, I realized okay, learning is something which I need to keep doing to ensure that I'm competitive. I'm in the market, right? Which I would have if I would have done in my college days. My life would have been very different. School days, my life would have been very different. But I think it's a learning of a life which you kind of go through with it. But again, even after doing my college and engineering and everything, I got ended up in a call center, like calling people for for a very small salary. That's how it all started. But I think all of those things were very good kick start for myself because then I realized, okay, the world is not how we look at. The world is very different. Every stage in the world, every level in the world, there are people who are happy. There are people who are sad. There are people who are very happy. There are people who are very rich. There are people who are very poor, and and seeing all of those things very closely and going through those stages really shaped me well as a human. Right. So today, if I go and see anyone, I can always relate with somebody who is around me as a founder, even if they are early in their build stage, and if they are very high on the position, there is always somewhere I can relate to them in multiple ways, and that relationships really helps me to shape my thought process whenever I go and talk and build my relationship. So that's my high level background. Now coming back to the tech, how I ended up here and how everything got me back into crypto. So I think I was spending fair amount of time in Web2 world, like developing software. That was my interest. So my interest was like it started very fairly simple. It's like you build something which people in the other side of the world can access it. Like how beautiful this thing is. Like you really don't have to produce anything in production. Like you don't have to burn coals to do all of these things, right? Because I come from a
Yeah, absolutely.
manufacturing background. I've seen carpets and all of those things in my area, right? Getting created. So what I have seen there, like you have to burn coal to do a lot of things. You have to really have like immense amount of effort has to put in just to produce something. While in the software world, there is nothing similar to that. Like you really are not burning anything. Yeah, as a cumulative, we might be burning something because of which we are getting the electricity. That's a different thing, but not me, right? To for me to produce anything, it really cost me zero. The only thing which it cost me is skill sets
Hmm.
and your finger speed. Like you go and start typing it, and also your like how fast you can just think and go through it. So that's really opened my window of that. Okay, so this is something which is very cool, and that's how I got into this space. And I said like, okay, let's start looking into it. Then I switched from call center to a software company and worked there as an associate engineer, learned everything from the scratch, and then journey just started like from there. When I was in Bangalore, I met my co-founder Mitrashis. He introduced me to the crypto actually while I was working with a startup called Query, which was got acquired by CSG, and that's how my journey in crypto started. And it was also a very simple journey. Okay, it's nothing like fancy. We never came here to do a lot of things, but it was a very naive statement for like to make here, but when you are from countries like India and countries like developing countries around the world, every dollar matters a lot, and you don't realize the dollar value until unless you start getting dollars, right? So suddenly, like, we just participated in hackathon in Gitcoin. I think Gitcoin was very sexy that point of time, and then we won that hackathon. And I said, like, bro, what the heck? Like, it's that easy to to make money here. Like, why I'm spending a lot of my time and coding and hearing my manager and doing all of the stuff. Um so that's how it all started, and then it was a rabbit hole of like building in software and in crypto. It just spiraled, and once you are in crypto, you are in crypto. Either you will become maxi of crypto, or you will just go to zero and you will go home, right? It's that. So
Mm.
so for me it was like, and that's how my crypto journey started, like, and from nothing to building something, from winning hackathons to coming and building Spheron. And that's the reason, like, whenever we build anything on Spheron, there is always a very close relationship between the real world use cases, because we have gone through those journeys, we have gone through those pain points, we have gone through everything. So everything we design, everything we speak from more on a very bottom layer, which a lot of people don't understand in developed world, because they have never faced such kind of things, while we did. So yeah, that's my like high level overview.
Yeah, usually we ask people why they got into crypto, and here I guess it's doubly impactful question to ask, because we also wanted to ask, like, how did you get into AI? Like, how did you bring your focus and attention to artificial intelligence and compute? Because obviously that's what Spheron's working with, and what are the obvious connection with crypto there?
I think very like if you combine AI x crypto, it's a massive use case which it can open up. I'll give you a very classic and foundational level example. Okay, so today if you have to access a compute, example H100 or any 4090s or any dedicated GPUs, right? The option is like you go to a site, you put your credit card, debit card detail. Most of the international sites don't even accept Indian debit cards, right? They accept credit cards, just for your knowledge. And then there are a lot of gateways now which are also present, where using which you can also pay it. But again, there is a international transactions and all of those things, fees and things will come into the picture, right? That's one thing. Second thing is that's just this is a user side problem. Okay, and then the pricing, right? So the pricing whenever you pay on international brands are always going to be expensive for any developing countries. Example, very simple example: the food which you eat at different places has a very different value, right? But they are built in the same way. There's no changes. So essentially, if somebody can create a resource arbitrage between the food supply chain, which basically happens in the ERP systems, you really will make wealth out of it, right? So just correlate the same thing with the computing power as also, right? The cost of electricity in US is very different, the cost of electricity in India is very different, the cost of electricity in Vietnam, in Dubai, in all of these places are very different. Now, if you combine all of these things together and want to sell it to the end user, how would you sell it if you don't have a very common ground of selling these materials? It's a so the only way to build a global marketplace is to have one way of accessing the system with a common value, or else you'll not be able to create such kind of robust marketplaces, right? And that's the reason, like, we have never seen so far in the world where we have a marketplace which is crazy good. The reason being because of the fiat differences. The reason being there is a currency fluctuations which are happening. Reason being there are tons of things which are involved into that. Now, if you combine the compute, now imagine in this Veron case, what we are doing is like we are bringing the compute in, right? And creating that common ground level for playing and paying for the infra. Like, there's no changes. Like, even if you're accessing the same infra from US, or you're accessing the same infra from Dubai, or you're accessing the same infra from somewhere else, you're paying the same cost essentially, right? Because it's a crypto adjusted, it's a inflation adjusted token based system, right? And that is how it works. um, Now, if you combine the same with the AI, right? So the problem in the AI space today, and today I basically wrote a very good founder. He wrote on Twitter today that India is lagging behind the compute, the GPU, the AI game, and all of those stuff, because we are not training models while China is doing it. And we were very vocal about all of these things from very earlier, right? Because GPUs are gonna be commodities, and these things has to be, or you can say, there's something which has to be sold out. Now it's a capital game. Now if the country won't have enough capital, they will lag behind, and they will always lag behind. This is how the capitalism like basically works. The people who have the capital, they can. But what if we can achieve the same output by deploying lesser capital? That is what DeepSeek has achieved, right? I don't know how much it is true, because there's a lot of things in China you don't know, like what is happening behind the scene. But at least what they have proven to the market, it's like it is possible, right? Now, if we can provide the developers, the researchers, the academias, the anywhere in the India or anywhere Vietnam, anywhere in the world, the lesser cost compute, and which is easily accessible without any KYCs, without any questions asked, right? You just go and lease out the compute and perform your work. Won't it be very cool? Like, won't we see that a lot of innovations which are coming in? Won't we see a lot of open source things which are going flowing into this space? So that's where the Web3, like AI x crypto intersection, goes very hand in hand, where we see that flow of money, which is the outer layer of everything, which is a coordination layer, which I look at, which is very seamless now. You don't have to, like, as a company, as a startup, as a community, I don't have to worry about a lot of regulations, because I'm already building something which is a layer of like which has already been built. Now below that layer, I'm just putting my tech into it. So the moment you attach a tech, now imagine you just deposit one money, you get the compute, you deposit other money, you get the compute. So that's how that's the power of crypto and AI, right? And people don't realize it. There are a lot of things which you can only build with this combination. For example, autonomous systems. You cannot build with a Web2 based fiat integrated systems. You can never do it, because Web2 systems are always bottlenecked with API keys. They're always bottlenecked with fiat systems. They're always bottlenecked with all of these systems. So it's a massive use case which can be enabled by combining crypto XCI and also the open source and community driven approach.
You've touched on so many points, I think, that are very interesting, and we want to break down. And I'm sure we're going to talk a lot about the autonomous nature of some of the technology that you're building, specifically around AI agents, and some of the backend infrastructure for Spheron. But you touched on some things that make Spheron really unique when it comes to this competitive landscape. For decentralized compute providers. I wanted to ask you if you can give some of our viewers a breakdown of what is Spheron and how does it work. We know we know very well because we've worked with you on the token economy. We've advised and invested in the company. But for anyone that's visiting the website and the platform and seeing how impressive it is, but seeing these buzzwords like provider nodes, gateway nodes, fizz nodes, Slark nodes, all of these different things, like give our viewers a high level overview of what this kind of looks like and how it all fits together, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. But I would not give the tech high level view, but I'll give a very general common sense view of like how it is designed. Because if I give the tech, then it will become very difficult for a lot of people to digest. But we have a white paper which is at spheron.network/white paper if you type. And if you are interested about learning more around tech, around how it is designed, it's a very good place to kind of learn it. But for me, it's a very common sense. Like, I come from a very common sense background where I put common sense first versus anything next, even tech also sometimes. Now, just let's say we three of us are here. Like, we all are in different countries. Let's say if Sasha is in country X, or let's say Vietnam or US or wherever you can be, and Camilo in different country, and I'm in different country. Now, Camilo is a data center owner, while Sasha has a RTX 4090 or RTX, some new models of machine, and Sasha is a very good game player, and all of those things like which Sasha has. Now, Camilo is a data center guy. He owns a lot of machines and servers and all of this stuff. Now, if I look at both of you from a very common sense angle, then I'll see one thing which is very common in both of you is the compute. Okay. So you are also having compute, even though you are playing it for your own personal use. And while Camilo is a data center guy, so his job is to kind of sell the compute, right? But they both have a compute. If you now let's go back to some numbers, and it's a factual number which I'm going to speak here. Okay. If I combine Sasha's kind of, let's say there are thousands of Sasha out there in the market, like who has this computing power, and they are playing the games in and out. Right now, if I combine their computing power together, if we go with the numbers, 1% of combining the Sasha computing power is gonna be it's gonna be crossing the computing power what OpenAI and all, even Google or any of these companies has, right? So that's the number
Wow.
which we are speaking about, right? We have, I think I wrote about this also, like Mac, Apple sells like 228 so million. I don't know exact numbers, but it is 200 million above they have sold last year machines. The same has happened with the Windows, the Linux, and all of those machines. And you can also go and validate these numbers all online, right? Now, if I look at then for me as somebody who wants to access systems, I just need a compute. I don't care it is coming from Sasha or it is coming from Carmelo. For me, that's one thing, the compute. The second thing which comes into consideration as a user is how much I'm going to pay for it, right? Now, if I go and use Sasha's machine, I have a certain restrictions. Like you don't have 1 Gbps speed, because that's not what you're going to get from your ISP provider, because you are not a business, while Carmelo will have 1 Gbps. But what you can give me is the price where you can beat Carmelo in down, right? For me, let's talk about use case. Very simple use case. I want to do a calculation of A plus B. What is the value of Y is going to be, right? It's a very small compute calculation. For such calculation, does it even make sense to go and lease out a Carmelo machine? Most likely no, because it's a fairly straightforward combination and I need that answer out. So I would rather go and ask Sasha to give his machine and execute my compute logics on top of his, while paying him 1/10th or 1/20th of cost what I would have paid to Carmelo in this case, because Sasha anyways is not using, he's just playing and having fun, but for that fun he's also getting paid, so he's happy to whatever he's making as a money, right? Now, coming back to the other use case, like there are tons of let's say there's a healthcare data, or there's some kind of algorithmic logic or some AI, some very big model which I want to run. Then I cannot use Sasha's machine. I have to go to Camelo, right? So there are two use cases here, which is defined, and that's how Spheron is designed from the user perspective. Okay, in Spheron we have two systems called Fizz nodes, which is Sasha's machine. We have providers, which are Camelo machines, and we do respect both of them equally. We don't differentiate between both of them. But their incentives are different, because he's running it as a business, you are running as a hobbyist. Okay, so there's incentive are different, their ways of accessing is different, their uptime, their validation, and all of those things are different. So that's how those two nodes basically function in Spheron. Whenever a user comes in, they can ask for, hey, give me this cloud, or give me this provider who is having this much of resources. Depending on what you are providing, it chooses where you want to go, like Sasha or Camelo. Now, who chooses into between this? Like I'm user. I don't want to know about who is Sasha. I don't want to know about who is Camelo. Now let's abstract one more further, right? Who is going to choose any of these things on the user behalf? That's where matchmaking comes in the picture. That's where the concept which you just told, like you have matchmaker node and all of those stuff, right? That's where the matchmaking comes in the picture, and you just say, matchmaker, bro, like I need this resource, can you give me this resource, right? Then that matchmaker basically fulfill your request, whatever you are asking for, either from Sasha or either from Carmelo. Okay, depends on what you are asking from the network. Very fairly and commonly designed system here. Okay, there's no out of the moon or like universe changing technology which we have used here. Very common sense technologies. Now, coming back to the other thing is, like, now let's imagine in this case, Carmelo can fake his resources, Sasha can also fake his resources. Since it's a decentralized system, we don't have a human who is validating your systems, right? Essentially, I need to say, for example, Sasha just told me, like, I have a 1490, but in reality, you did not have 1490. But how I'm going to verify Sasha's machine? The same goes with Carmelo as well. He said, like, I'm a data center guy, but he in reality he's not, right? He's faking the system. Like, are we going to deploy humans to validate each and every system? It will become insane. You can't do it. Like, it's a highly impossible thing, and that's the reason, like, you will never see any system which has been built so far which is sufficiently decentralized, or you can say decentralized with validated systems, right? It's because validation is a pain in the ass in decentralized systems, and that's where our Slark nodes comes into the picture, right? So Slack nodes, the Slack node is, I think these names we have taken from a game. I think it was from Dota or somewhere else. We have taken the names. Um,
Nice.
yeah, so these Fizz node and all of those things are the characters in reality in the games. So the Slack nodes are, the job of the Slack node is like, he takes Sasha on the corner from the network, and then he beats down Sasha by giving him. So how can you validate if the resource is right or not,
So violent.
right? Not, yeah, in human terms, yeah, but in tech terms, no, right? So in the tech term, how it's going to be happening, that I'll keep giving Sasha multiple work. So I'll say, you know what, give a plus b equals to what, then you will tell me one answer. Then I'll complicate this problem. I'll say, now x a square plus b square, how much it's going to be, right? Then I'll further complicate it. The square root of a plus b, the whole square of that, what is going to be, right? So the more complex you make Sasha, because Sasha has a certain limit, and computation, the beauty of computation, it's a skill set, right? So if you ask a mathematician about historical questions, he won't be able to answer it because he's not an historian, right? The same goes with the compute also. A compute can only perform certain tasks depending on what you are giving it. For example, an Intel machine with i7, i8, i6, they have a different clock speeds, right? They have different configurations, and they cannot perform out of their clock speeds, right? They cannot perform out of their what their work is, right, supposed to be done. So that's how the Slack node basically validates the resources. It gives out a task. Depending on task, it basically verifies if you are the right guy or not. There is smoke test and all of those things which are already pre-built. That's what Slack node is all about. Okay, this is how validation basically works. The same
Mm.
is applicable to Camelo as well. Now, if the Slack node identifies you are performing maliciously, it will give you a slash. And slash is a system which is decentralized systems like are designed. Only using slashing you can build a right network, or else the network will never sustain in decentralized ecosystems, right? Or else people will just come in, they will play around, they will go away, and so it's an economic security essentially, right? So that's how
Yeah.
Slack node essentially works. I think I have covered all the
And
nodes
it's all
mostly, but gateway is pending.
Yeah, it's all built around accountability and automation, right? And the beautiful part, like you mentioned, is that it's inclusive and accessible for anyone. And I know when we were first speaking a while back about collaborating together, the idea was structuring a node economy specifically around the Slark node and the verifier network. And so the idea that these Slark nodes are policing the network, but they're also involved in network operation and security, right? And so the idea there is that maybe Carmelo or myself, we don't have an RT4090. Maybe we don't have a graphics card that can contribute in a meaningful way, or at least in a way that's going to allow us to monetize our computer, enough for us to actually connect to the network. Well, all of a sudden we have something that looks more like a traditional node offering in the Slark nodes, where I can assign, let's say, a hardware device to be a verifier for very, very little computational energy, but I can earn in contributing to the network. And it's even more powerful that you guys, I believe, they're not going with like a traditional node sale that we've seen in the past that are kind of very speculative, and people sell these nodes for like very, very large amounts of money. And I'm kind of proud in the economic system that we've designed together in like a merit-based system or a contribution-based system where people can become eligible to police the network through involvement in a number of different ways. But yeah, I think what you've developed here and what excites us so much is that it's accessible, and it is something that's inclusive. And the one of the more interesting aspects that we've discussed in Spheron specifically is the business development strategy and the vision that you guys have for Spheron in 2, 5, 10 years, and how you envision Spheron being a kind of front runner when it comes to decentralized compute. We talked about the idea of onboarding academic institutions, research firms, traditional financial firms, algorithmic trading firms, etc. If you don't mind, like give our viewers an idea of like what does this vision kind of look like, and how does it create this ecosystem of inclusion, not only with some of these larger B2B enterprise clients, but also competitor or partner decentralized compute networks.
I think like on the vision side, are as you have already mentioned, that the vision was very quite clear, is like how we can make the compute widely accessible. And it can only happen if you allow people to sell this compute, which were not earlier. It and it can only be possible and via crypto and Web3 because of the legal and all of those reasons. Now coming back to is like, how are we looking at the distribution and also the plan of like extending beyond what we currently like looking forward. I think this Spheron journey, we started from bottom up, so that's how we are basically looking at like reaching out to the market. When I say bottom, it's fairly simple, because we know we are not ready for enterprises yet. Like, we honestly accept that, and we are not some decentralized company or company or community or people like who proudly go and speak that, hey, you know what, we are enterprise ready. No, I think most of the decentralized infrastructure are not at all even close to enterprise ready, because I have worked with enterprises. they don't they don't even go the way they have like they speak about, because enterprises had a lot of compliances like SOC 2, SOC, HIPAA, and tons of other things, which is highly not that possible to kind of do it at Spheron. Okay, sorry, not possible in a very decentralized system. So that's where we go in a very different direction, and we have took a different route. We said like, because developers don't require SOC compliant systems, they require something which can be work seamlessly. So we are looking for developers to kind of like get onboarded. We are looking for AI agents which are not SOC compliant needed. For example, I want to do an analysis on publicly available data. You don't require all of those compliances there. It's because it's a public available data. You don't really need a compliances on a public available data. And then we are also looking forward to have, so we have such kind of use cases which are laid out, and we know that for the next 1 year we are not going to be touching enterprises at all. But yes, if you ask me today, like, can enterprise can use Spheron? They can use it, Spheron, because we have something called, which is very cool, where these providers can become our providers can be for example, in my case, when I was giving example called Carmelo one, right? Carmelo is a data center guy. Now what happens if this data center which Carmelo has is already very validated and secured? Then this can also be used by any enterprises which is already validated, right? But we cannot sell it from directly by saying that, because we don't validate those SLAs. We validate the work into network, not the SLAs as such. So that's where the things basically start changing. But down the line, after 1 year, our main goal is to introduce the concept of like validating the SLAs via smart bots, like how you can validate those SLAs to ensure that the audits are being in place, validating those legal contract and agreements. And if those are into place, then it just makes Spheron highly scalable. And our main goal and vision at Spheron is only one thing: is to make make Web3 companies start using Web3 infrastructure. Uh, be it AI agents, be it normal developers. That's what our core target audiences are. We don't want to go somewhere which is highly unlikely to be achieved. And I think, and we proudly call it out, we are not somebody who's going to make fake promises. We are the people like who make the promises which can be achievable, like in a nutshell. So that's what our vision at Spheron is like: make compute more accessible, readily, easily accessible, make Spheron more flexible and affordable in terms of like building on top of it different applications, tools, and services. Make it more accessible for academia, research, developers, and all of these people. Make it more streamlined and vertically integrated to AI agents and Web3 companies first, before we tap into the Web2 companies.
Yeah. That, so we've sort of covered like the supply side, and you had some good examples before about like data centers and individuals using their own personal devices. But could you fill us in on like the demand side? Because you've been kind enough to show us the dashboard and how much resources have been transacted so far, and it's astonishing. Like, there's clearly a demand there, but we want to get a better picture of what the demand side looks like. So could you paint us a picture of like a few different types of user profiles for demand side? Like you mentioned, Sasha mentioned academics, you mentioned developers in Web3, but what does the demand side actually look like? Like, who's currently on Spheron, like absorbing that power, that compute power, and what are they using it for?
Yeah, sure, man. I think for us, like, we started first, like, just to test out our thesis. What we did is like we launched a very small Supernodes app, and not even Supernodes app. It was a console app, also very simple and easy peasy tool to use, where you just go and click and launch a node. Very simple. Like, it's a very common sense tool, which nobody has built on any deep in based systems. The reason they have not ever built on any deep in based systems is because those systems are fundamentally flawed. right? They are just systems for, and I'm very proud to saying this because we have built in on most of them, we have used most of them, and they don't work the way they claim it. Okay. So I'm very proud to and I'm very vocal on these things. Okay. Right.
Spicy.
So we built a super node. It's very classic, very simple. Just go click and launch a node. That's a very simple thing. Just imagine how much it would have made us in revenue, right? Within 3 months of launch, we were like sitting at around $1.2 million ARR in terms of the money. So, but but
Jesus.
but we took little bit a step back because it had some centralized components. So we just took a back. We said like, okay, let's build again, fix some foundational issues, and then we'll launch it again. And now again, we are back with the GPU and everything. Community is going and using it, right? So every day, somebody, and it's, you know what, how much cost it took us to build it? Hardly $1,000, $2,000. You know what? How much we have made out of it? More than $20,000, $30,000 out of it, right? So that's the main the outcome which we have to look at is like, if you build the foundation so strong that the building on top of it become much more easier and sexier, then you are going to see is like a lot of people are going to be like using you, and they will be like building amazing use cases and amazing cool things on top of it, right? So that's the whole cusp of like distribution and demand side, just for your knowledge, right? The same thing comes back to again on the other demand side, which is AI agents. Now if you look at today, most AI agents are using some centralized servers. Why? Because we don't have any web3 enabled deep in compute based systems, which so-called deep in based enabled compute based systems are not even capable enough to absorb their demand, while they are very good in marketing, while you will find them everywhere having a booth presenting that okay, they are the world's the largest biggest compute network. But in theory, if you go on their demand dashboard, you will see like hardly they have seen 600 people leased out their compute. What the heck? Like after building 3 to 5 years of time frame of yours, only 600 people are running and leasing out the compute. It's bullshit. Like I'm honestly calling it out. It's bullshit. Like you are just scamming people. You are not building tech. You are not building anything. Which you are building something to basically help yourself, help your ego of founders to mitigate, right? And pump the token. That's it. That's what you are doing. But on the adoption side, there's nothing. If you go to AWS, GCP, Run Pod, all of these companies who came later than you, they were able to absorb more demand. They were like generating like hundreds and millions of dollars in revenue, while in Web3 startups like who are in the Web3 and building this system, they are still struggling to even get 10 compute leases, right? It's tough. It's, I don't know like why and it's a very retrospection for the entire industry to kind of go and retro about it. It's a And that's what we did at
Absolutely.
Spheron. We did retro. We And how we did the retro, we basically went ahead and started building on top of them first. We said like, let's build, like, what is the problem? We have to understand it from the bottom. And then when we started doing that, we realized, okay, it's all fundamentally flawed. Whatever they are claiming, it's just a claim. There's nothing on the thing which basically functions, works as they claim. And that's how it started working. Now if you won't believe, we have just onboarded a very good inferencing endpoint layer on Spheron. They were looking for bare metal access and everything. We given them access at a very lower cost, and they onboarded from one of the best Web3 startup in, like, or you can say Web3 community, a compute infra community in Web3, right? So they switched from theirs to us. And then there was one more company who was building AI agents. They basically switched from theirs to us. So there are a lot of such incidents which are happening, because ultimately at a certain point of time, you are not going to see like people going on a false claims. They will use you till the time you are giving them money, but after your money is over, they will go back to the place where they will get a lot of experience. It's the same philosophy, right? You give people experience. Why people come to like Dubai? If you and I do like get a lot of inspiration from Dubai. The reason being because, and I try to connect with this Faran also. They are one of the, like, I think some in the number wise, I don't know like what is the number now, but people love, as a tourist, people love come to Dubai. The reason being because the experience which you receive here, it's a next god level. Okay, from your onboarding on the airport to getting into the cars which you have never imagined to even sat on a very, just by paying 25 to 30 dirhams, it's next level. Like you get Mercedes, you want Ferrari, you want to drive like Lambo, you want to do anything, you just get to do it. All the experience are here. Like people would love to come to the and enjoy the experiences, and they never hesitate to go extra mile to pay you for those experiences, right? How longer you are going to incentivize people? If I go and tell people, hey, you know what, there's a country which doesn't even have a good transportation system, and they are giving and making your flight cost zero, are you going to visit that country? Most likely no, bro. Like, nobody is going to do that, right? You are not going to visit that country no matter what happens, because your life is first, like, and rest remains next. So that's how it works in anywhere. So experience is the key. And that's what we are also focused at Spheron, is like, we want to build a system in a way that people should love to use it. And yes, it might not, we are not at that place yet, but at least we are 60% to that place, reaching that place of the experience. So, but once we hit 100%, you will find that building on top of Spheron and a lot of things and experiences on Spheron is going to be crazy smooth and sexier, right? And that's what we are building, and that's how our demand strategy is looking like. It's to build the experience, and also, yeah, of course, you have to keep iterating around the users. So keep onboarding new users, new sets of users, get a feedback, build, get a feedback, build. That's only the way forward. There's no other way of, like, shortcut routes of demand. So that's what our community, just to kind of summarize it, that's what our way of looking at demand, and demand is there in the market. The only thing is, like, we have to build the experiences so that this demand can be captured.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for that answer, and that was very insightful. And just to dig a little bit deeper into that, you mentioned earlier that you're not quite enterprise ready yet, but what will it take to get enterprise ready, and how long do you think that will happen? And on a second note, you also mentioned about like the capital infusion here. Like, this is a capital intensive game. So do you see, the investment, let's call it, in processing and in compute resources? Do you think buying cards and starting a data center is a viable investment for the future? Just like you might invest in other resources or gold or something to hold value or to bring you more wealth by renting out these resources on a marketplace like Spheron.
I think first question on your side, like enterprise side, we are ready today also, but we are not ready from the team perspective. When I say that, that basically means, like, I don't have a sales engineer, sales team for doing that. Okay. And then, because enterprise is altogether a different ball game, where you have to design certain things, you have to have a dedicated support engineers, you have all of those stuff. And till the time you don't have, there's no point of going to enterprises. Okay. Because they are going to ask you, because you have to handhold them in multiple things. They are not going to be like reading your docs, spending hours in just understanding it, because they are there for business, right? It's fairly straightforward, right? And you need to make their experience much more better. And then again, as compliances, as I told, like, so compliances are very important. And our priority is not that at this point of time. Our priority is more about, like, solving the public use cases first, then going to the private use cases later. Which will happen even today also. If any team wants to build the private use cases, they are more than welcome to use Spheron tech. We can give them as it is, and they can build the private use cases. It's fairly straightforward and simple. And we have also presented the same during our some other presentation, where we have shown, like, how you can build a very federated learning, federated systems, like all of those stuff. So that's your answer for the enterprise readiness. Coming back to the other question, I think I missed other question. If you repeat it, then it would be great because
Yeah,
it was
just
attached to.
yeah, they seemed unrelated, but in my mind, I made this mental link because I was assuming that the reason you're not enterprise ready yet, and I was totally wrong because you said it was team based, but I know that creating a marketplace, one of the key challenges is matching supply and demand. So, just worrying that you might onboard a huge enterprise client and then not have enough supply to meet that demand, or vice versa, you have too much supply and not enough demand. But if that's not the case, and anybody might be able to go do it. Do you think it's a viable investment for the future going forward in 2025 to invest in graphic cards and GPU and CPU and even XPU? Because foreseeing that these marketplaces are going to be a thing and there's going to be huge demand. So, yeah, just asking if you think that's like a wise investment choice now. I mean, people always talk about gold and investing in crypto, but you could literally invest in these cards if you can manage to get your hands on them.
I think everyone should invest in GPU. Okay, I think everyone, you should, any, and this is a not an investment advice though, but investing in GPU is not going to harm you in any ways, right? Because if you don't want your data to be exposed, if you don't want your queries, your personal information to be used for doing a lot of their own training and benefits, then GPUs are going to be like handy for you. in a lot of ways, because that's what and I'm not saying is because you can connect that GPU to Spheron and get the benefit. That's a very different thing. But the first thing is, everyone should invest in GPUs, because GPUs are gonna be the resources which is going to be used for doing a lot of AI stuff. What if you want to ask a query about your very personal data, which you cannot ask from ChatGPT, and right, you cannot do that. Like, for everyone's knowledge, nothing is secure. Whatever they call it, even Google call it, like, they have very big terms and condition policies. So there is nothing called security there. So if you want to keep your things more secure and all of those things, use open source LLMs, use it for your own day-to-day purpose. Build a rig around Spheron. Like, you can use Spheron as a tech also to kind of build your private inferencing layer and all of those things, which can easily be built with Spheron. And then just consume it. Give the same endpoints to your friends, family, and anyone who is not like looking forward to expose their data. So that's one part on the investing part. Now, coming back to Spheron specifically, Spheron is, we want to invest more on tech. We don't want to invest more on graphic cards, because we are not because it's a very different game altogether. They both are. I used to think like they both are same game, but in reality, they both are very different game. Okay, because we invested in both. We also run our own colo location in US as a data center. So we kind of realize, okay, so there's a altogether different verticals which is very different. Like, data center game, owning cards, doing the stuff around it, it's way different than building a marketplace, because in marketplace you have different problems to solve. You have a problem of tech, you have a problem of stability, you have problem of resource validation, you have problem of economic incentive alignment, you have problem of asking these data center providers to connect with you. And that's where the sales cycle will change, like marketplaces. So marketplaces should not own a lot of servers if they're building a marketplace. Instead, it should be aggregated, right? And then they also should focus on experience layer. And this is where marketplaces win. And a very classic example is Uber, right? And also Walmart and all of these guys, very, very classic examples of marketplaces. Did they bought the entire farmland? No, like, they aggregated the farmers, right? The same with the Uber. Did they bought the entire Hyundai and all of those brands and then started producing their own cars? No, they just aggregated those drivers who were buying and investing into the cars or fleets. So that's where the marketplaces concept basically changes. And marketplaces, and while Uber was focused more on providing the right incentive for these fleets so that they can bootstrap their demand and also on the supply side. And once this economic engine basically starts, a flywheel start, then there's no stopping of it. Then you will just keep on going on. In Uber case, the only problem is, like, it's highly frictional, because you need a lot of human capacity to basically manage it, while on the marketplaces like compute, you don't like need a lot of humans. So for example, in Spheron, we are like, how many like on the dev side, we have max around 10 team members at a given point of time, right? Just imagine 10 team members have built this much big the things, right, out of the box. And if you would have had to build the same thing in web 2, it's gonna be very tricky. It requires like to raise 50-60 million dollars, $100 million to even do that. So that's where um, the investment basically changes. But yes, we need more capital to be more enterprise ready, because of this validation system has to be very, very robust. SLA, like as I said, like, we have to build smart bot systems and all of those things to validate the SLAs and everything. So yeah, we will remain focused on aggregating the community cloud, community compute, versus owning ours, um, and then but focus more on investing in the space where we can utilize this community compute to achieve the broader use cases of private AI and all of those stuff.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And like, while we're on that subject, I like the point you made about blockchain companies should be using blockchain infrastructure. AI companies should be using decentralized stuff. Like, it's crazy that we can have decentralized backends, but a totally centralized front end of a website that can go down at any moment. Like, you can't access Uniswap unless you know how to access the smart contract itself. And on that note, because we align with you, that's one of the reasons we wanted to work with you in the first place, because you obviously believe in decentralization, especially for AI, because it's a very potent technology. And I wanted to ask, does Spheron have any plans to move into the other key pillar of AI, which is the data side? Because you should you guys are focused on decentralizing compute resources, but the data side is a whole nother question altogether. Like, where does that data come from? How do we train models? How do we make sure that everybody's getting paid or rewarded accordingly for that? Because a lot of when ChatGPT was training their models, they stole a lot of information from authors. They stole a lot of uh, basically scraped the entire internet to train their models for free and didn't give anybody any thanks for that.
I think interesting question, but I think this question I can answer it very heavy, like on the very like higher side. But if you ask specifically from Spheron perspective, like do we handle any of these things? The answer is no. We don't do that. The reason being because our main core focus is compute. When I say compute, it's like imagine you have a land, right? Now on the land, whatever you want to wish will build, it's up to you as a user, end user. If you want to bring the bricks or some stone from some Paris or London or India or some all these places, it's a user choice. But what we can do best to serve the users to give them land to build any of these things. So that's where Spheron basically comes into the picture. Now, but just to kind of answer your question, because that's very important one, how data should be aggregated. There are a lot of teams who are already there in this space, who are working on data aggregation point, where you can basically bring the data from or scrape the data, public data, to funnel that and create incentive layer for the end user whenever those data is getting used, right? Even today also, like in web2 companies, there are a lot of this scraping web2 companies who scrape a lot of public data and then sell it to the web2, like again the next web2 AI company or anything else. um, but they don't pay the end user, right? The users whose data is getting scrapped, and the user who is participating into all of those things, right? That's fairly bad, right? And that's where the crypto incentive plays a very vital role into like bringing and creating that data economy altogether, because data economy is equally important as compute economy. People do speak about a lot of data economy, and they speak, but they always forget one thing is like data economy alone will not be sustainable enough if you don't have a compute economy plugged into picture, right? A car cannot run if you only bring an oil. A car can only run if you bring engine also along with it. So it's a same combination, right? In the Spheron and the compute, right? So they go very hand in hand in both the cases. So that's the answer which I would love to kind of like summarize it with. Yes, we need data economy, data layer, and very incentivized, well curated data structures to effectively train or fine tune the models which you are looking forward. But you also need the compute economy on the sidelines to ensure that these data which you are aggregating also training on the same compute infrastructure from where it has been aggregated, right? So that's the whole concept about like Spheron. But yeah, that I would love to add on. I can add more if you want, but I'll pause here because that's not my domain of data side. So
Yeah. No,
I'll
that was
not get
great.
into that.
I love the analogy, and yeah, I mean, it's more maybe Spheron can partner up with one of those data aggregators, like you mentioned. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that because I know that's also a big component of the decentralized AI movement. Like, how can we move away from using these big server companies or Amazon Web Services? How do we avoid stealing data to train our models? Because everybody's going to be using AI in the future, but how are we going to do it sustainably while not ripping anybody off or stealing resources from others?
I want to shift back over to something that you had mentioned before, specifically around autonomous AI technology. And, this fits directly into the kind of decentralized aspect of the compute provider network. But, we had a conversation a while back around this tech that you have called, I think, since then, Skynet, which is a little bit scary considering that's the name of the company that developed the Terminator, and we're talking about autonomous AI agent technology. And so, essentially AI agents that are acting without intervention that cannot be controlled once they've been deployed. But if you don't mind, like, give us an idea of how does Skynet work? How does it fit into the Spheron ecosystem? And why do you believe it's going to be so impactful for the future of AI agent tech? Because we know that AI agents right now are being used mainly for like sentiment analysis and copy trading, but there's so many future applications specifically around automation in e-commerce or logistics or analytics or anything. So yeah, tell us about this Skynet and why it's hopefully not going to destroy the world.
Yeah. So again, the name. Just coming back to the name again. So R Skynet is the good one. Okay. And name doesn't matters, right? Anyone who is with a very good lord's name or some god's name, they will also screw the world, right? So name has never nothing to do with like what is behind it. But it should be attractive enough, and it's also it should be also like easily pronounceable. Like that's what we have also learned. Like it's Spheron. Like we also became marketer over the time. So on the marketing term, Skynet is a good name, a good name and term. Now coming back to like what exactly Skynet is and why and how it basically fits into Spheron. And it's not my statement. I think there's a Nvidia's show, like they presented a few weeks back, I think a few months back, and Nvidia CEO just spoke about AI agents, and he told that after a certain duration of time, HRs will not be managing humans; they will be managing AI agents, right? I don't know like what's the exact framing of that line, but this is what the outcome of
Wow.
that, right? So what does it mean? That basically means like we are going to be managing a lot of agents down the line, right? It's for everything we are going to be having agent for ordering food to giving you alarm in the morning to like giving you medication advices to anything, like anything and everything you think of can be created as an agent. Now this is very cool. It sounds very very cool when you look at from the user perspective, right? Bro, like I'm gonna be like having all of these fun things which I'm gonna do it. But the moment you look at more from the company perspective, it's a nightmare. The reason being because imagine and all the infra, and I always imagine infra as more as a real estate companies. Okay, they are not very differences. So you can always correlate with the real estate stuff. So if you look at real estate, if there is one developer, is that developer going to be able to handle like 10,000, 20,000 buildings? Most likely no. And you will never find it happening. The reason being because it's very, very intensive managing the infra. Right? It's not that easy in the real world also. The same goes with the in the digital world. Now imagine a company which is managing 20,000 AI agents. Suddenly one day what happened, their dev just pushed the wrong code and all the 20,000 agent got screwed. Right. So it's nightmare. It's a management nightmare. Like any smart companies will not do it. The reason being because it will be very high stake risk and things which will be involved. The other thing is going to be is to managing these agents. Like imagine, let's say in my case, even in Sasha, in Kamalu, and any tech guy who must be listening this one, how many agents can you manage in a single day? Like hardly 100, 200, 300. Okay, let's get on the very peak side, 1000 agent we are managing on a every daily basis, right? Then imagine how many people you are going to require to manage 10,000 agents. Correct. Multiply by 10. Now if you are doing the 10 people hiring, these are going to be full stack engineers, DevOps team and member on all of those people like will be involved. So essentially, you're not going to be having 10 people. You will be having a backup of those 10 people as well, which will like around 4 to 5. So essentially, this is how you basically design your resource planning. So let's say I have 15 team members, or let's say I have kept 40%. In a very minimalistic side, let's say I kept a 20% buffer, right? Which is two member who is just on the standby mode always. Whenever somebody takes a leave, he takes over and all of those things. 12 members. Average salary of any individual in this space taking the full stack role or anything like that is going to be around, I'm talking about US pricing, is going to be around 120K to 250K, depending on like where you are living and staying. Multiply that number with the number which I've just told. You will find that, okay, so there is a $2 million or $3 million something which is going to be a fixed cost for you on OPEX year on year, which is going to be coming up to you without involving any other OPEX. Okay. So that's the cost which is going to be associated. Now imagine the maintenance cost, imagine the infra cost, and just calculate all those numbers. The number will skyrocket because how Amazon, AWS, and all of the system also works is like they have a lot of systems. How many people are logging in? Depending on that, you have to pay for infra cost, tons of other things, which is nitty gritty cost, which basically adds up to like, so generally cost goes to around 3x, 4x of whatever you have imagined. So this is how software works. You can never tell me that, hey, you know what, I have just got calculated my OPEX is coming around 500K. It never happens, bro. Like this is not how the software works. You calculate 500K, you'll end up in paying 1.5 to $2 million. Okay. So that's how it works. So if you look at that, then how companies are going to be profitable, right? So generally, if any companies, and today running agents are very very cheap, and they have to become cheap to run these agents, but they're not. They're quite expensive today. If you run it on T systems, they are like very expensive. If you run it on AWS systems, they are also again very expensive, right? So the expense also is on a very higher side. So we have to design a very sophisticated system first, where first we have to eliminate the number of humans who are managing these agents. If we eliminate that, then we can go to the next stage of like optimizing the infra usage. So Scanet basically solves those things at scale. So Scanet is a fully autonomous agent. So essentially what it means, you deploy Scanet framework, and Scanet is a framework. It's nothing. It's a framework. People can use that framework to build their own autonomous agents, just
Right.
for everyone. So let's say I use the Scanet framework. I deployed that Scanet framework, and then I just deployed an agent which basically autonomously manages it. So imagine what happens. Let's say today Sasha come. It's again common sense. Okay, Sasha is a intelligent guy. Camilo is an intelligent guy. I'm also an intelligent guy. So we three, as a collective intelligent person, sitting together.
It's true.
Collective intelligent person sitting together to say, hey bro, you know what, whenever I am going to sleep, just knock me and I'll wake up. Okay, how are you gonna solve this problem? You are gonna be like, if you're sitting all together at a very closer distance, you are just gonna be like knocking on my shoulder and saying like, bro, you're sleeping, wake up, right? And that's how you basically solve this problem. But what if we replicate the same thing in agenting world, right? We deploy three agents of our three characters, and they are talking to each other. Whenever somebody sleeps, they will wake them up. Like, it can be possible. It can truly be possible, and it's a common sense. It's nothing fancy here, right? It's a very simple tech stuff. But building this is very tricky, because to wake up anything in a world of compute, you are essentially saying that you are leasing out one more compute. Okay, so let's take the same example in the
Yeah.
agentic world, right? Now the same case, I'm an agent. Prashant now just slept. Now Sasha needs to, Camilo need to finalize. Okay, now Prashant need to be woke up again, because we need him to do certain task, but I'm not responding. So what you will do, you'll spin up one more Prashant on my behalf. Okay, because you know the context of Prashant. So you both will decide together on a common consensus that Prashant is not waking up. Let's spin up one of his version again. So your job, like as a consensus, is to always maintain three nodes in the network, no matter what happens. Okay. So in this consistent model, because now they are intelligent enough to understand and take action on top of whatever you have just told. What will happen is, like, whenever somebody goes down, they will just spin up one more new one. Okay, so that's how it basically functions. Scanet. That's a foundational concept of Scanet. Now, building on how it is connected to Spheron, because Spheron only provides you the programmable compute, and that's the reason we told it programmable compute. Now, if I program inside the Sasha's agent that whenever something happens, you have Spheron, just call Spheron SDK, and you will get one more API, right? You will get one more agent up and running. That's what Scanner basically does. It basically gives you the entire framework to make it happen seamlessly. Now, in this process, do you require any human to manage any of these things? No, because they are managing themselves. You basically lowering the cost. Now, a company which was not supposed to be running 10,000 agents, now they can do it, because all of these agents are self-managing it. They only have to just provide the launch pad to launch these agents. That's it. That's what it requires. Now, how it is and why it is only possible on Spheron is because Spheron gives the RPC-based programmable deployment of compute. When I say that, that basically means like we don't have any API endpoints. So essentially, there's no centralized point of failure of leasing on compute, right? And that makes us more unique and very very user friendly. Then what happens? Like Sasha just have to just execute transaction instead of owning any API keys, right? But the only thing which you should have is just a wallet, and you just commit a transaction, you get a computer, and you get a replication of Prashant created again, and you'll able to keep on doing it without even involving anything else. And doing all of these things, Spheron works with a spawn token, just for like, because you guys have also designed our economics. So you might have already seen that. So spawn is essentially important for spinning up the compute to ensure that it happens very seamlessly. and these guys are incentivized to have more spawn. So that's what Skynet is. Now, if you build on top of it, let's say I want to build a immortal agent, right? You can go ahead and build that also, because now if these agents are capable enough to launch token, do tons of different things, create an incentive, create economics to have more and more spawn, or they only need spawn in theory on their side. If they have spawn, no matter from where they are getting it, they will keep on running. Because, and the second thing is like, they need to have a computer in the network. So till the time Spheron protocol exists, they will always exist. So it's the same thing. Like, so till the time universe is there, in Earth is going to be there. So that's how it's going to be like designed. So that's what Skynet is all about. It's a fully autonomous, and it has all the flexibility involved. If you want a human string, you can attach that. You want to define diff AI use case, you can build on top of it. But all of those things will be fully autonomous. Like they will be self-managing infra. They will be self-doing all of those things. You don't require a lot of team members to manage it. 2 team members is more than enough to handle thousands of agents without any if and buts. So that's where the value addition of Skynet is all about.
Amazing. Yeah, that's fascinating. Like, I think we could spend all day asking you questions about this. Like, we definitely have to have you back on, but I think we have to wrap up soon. But I wanted to sneak in one last question while we're on this point. I wanted to ask you, it's a little bit more philosophical, but what do you think all of this will do to the job market in the future? Because I remember when ChatGPT first dropped and everybody was like, well, there we go. My job is over. Like, they thought a language model could steal their, $100,000 a year salary job. But now with the rise of like autonomous, like agentic networks, you can literally train your own backup or your own clone. So people are going to start to realize that companies have to be fiscally responsible, and they have to seriously consider training agents and hiring less people or even laying people off. And I wanted to ask, what do you think like the next several years are going to look like for the job markets, and what is going to do to the economy?
I think any new technology has ever came into the market, they have only increased the job in multifold. Okay. Send me one data points, or like because I was also curious with the same thing, because I thought like, okay, what we are building, it's going to just kill the jobs, right? But when we started looking into data, when so in India, I'm talking about India and other places, like when computer came in, everyone's like, you know what will happen with the accounts team? Like accountants will be like no longer going to be there, because then we can use Excel sheet and create the accounts. But it did not happen. It happened in a very different way. Accountants become more smarter, and they like went into like understanding this tech and building the sophisticated system on top of these abstraction layers, and they are now like successful people. The same goes with any kind of tech. Like even a computer came in and they said like, okay, the libraries will be gone. Like we won't see any more libraries in the world. All the libraries will become it's not the case, right? So but what basic technology brings in, it pushes humans to do something which is highly productive and long-term sustainable for human as such. Okay. Any tech which brings in, so we always switch to better version of what it has to be, where we can spend. And if you look very closely, what tech has also solved is it has solved one of the basic problems of people, is spending time with your family and people around you, right? If tech would not have been there, then we would have been like doing very different things, and just to make money, you really had to spend like thousands of years outside of your family. Even when you're dead, you don't even know like what happened with your family. So I think if you look at very closely, that tech makes you become more closer to your family, because then you have more time to spend with them, do something which is more productive, create something which is more viable and long-term sustainable for you and your family and your country and your business. So that's how it is. That's where tech basically comes into the picture. What I look at is very different. The AI agents will kill the jobs which are redundant, but it will create another job which are not non-redundant. Okay. So imagine, and this is something which I was talking to my content creator, like my content writers and everyone, is if you don't put your intellectual thought process while you are writing, because AIs are not going to be as intellectual as you are. They are not going to be self-learning a lot of things. You will always, as human brain's replication is still, we are far away to kind of like reach to that level, because we have millions and millions of neurons triggering, and every human is very unique. Just imagine that in the world we have this many humans. Are we gonna able to create such level of agents who can personate every humans, it's highly unlikely it's going to be happening. But what humans are going to be doing is to make nature more beautiful, make air more cleaner, make water more cleaner, make earth more better place to live. That's where our entire resource and humans involved, because these things AI agents can't do it. They are designed for digital world. They're not designed for to solve and clean our street for now. Maybe in the future that will also happen, but for now it's not. They are not designed to build the buildings. They are not designed to build sustainable livings out there, right? So that's where we are going to see like a lot of job opportunities which will come into the picture, like research, intellectual folks coming out, thinking out of the box, beating down AI agents in terms of thought process. And then I'm going to see, and it's a very, very entire and a very, very controversial thing. I don't know like how much it's going to be like true, but I want to see people moving towards more towards agriculture. Okay. Which we have lost, which lot of young youth have lost the faith into. Like they don't want to go towards agriculture and all of these businesses. And we are
100%.
going to
Yeah.
see this is going to be this. I think this innovation is going to push back a lot of engineers, a lot of people to go back and solve the problem around the agriculture, using which we can have a nice food and things which doesn't require a lot of pesticides to be added.
Yep.
To kind of
Mhm.
to have food. So that's where I see that, and that's where I'm more bullish on. Like after the AI coming in, I'm more bullish on where human engagement is heavily important, and none of the things which can be replaced by humans yet. And those are not redundant work, okay? Because agriculture is not redundant, and you
Yeah, not
cannot
at all.
just wake up in the morning. Your agent cannot just wake up in the morning and start sowing the seeds, and cannot predict the, okay, so now I'm going to like put all of those curtains there to ensure that water doesn't come flows into. So a lot of these things can only be done by humans, and that's where we are going to see a spike in the investment, and also spike in the resource planning and all of those things around the agriculture space. And we are going to see like more people like flocking there, because that's only the future. Rest everything will wash away, like rest everything will be done by agents, and we can just and the only way to make then real money is agriculture, land selling, real estates, and all of those stuff, like which are the businesses which cannot be replicated. So yeah, so that's my my belief and take. I may be wrong, but I want to see it after 20-30 years down the line what happens. Hope I should be alive by that point of time to see these things. But
I hope so.
yeah, to see a lot of people doing this thing.
That's actually my dream. I wish I could train a Carmelo agent just so I can get offline, get off my ass, and go outside and tend to a garden. It sounds way fun, more fun.
Yeah. Farming. It's the new hipster hobby. I think I share the same sentiment, and I'm really optimistic about a lot of the tech development that we're seeing, specifically around AI and agentic technologies. I'm just a little bit concerned about the level of automation that we may achieve. I personally think that it might push a lot of people to become much lazier and dependent on this tech. And I think I can't count the number of people I meet that say that their favorite hobby is Netflix and chill. Unfortunately, but maybe a problem for another day. I think we can talk about this endlessly, but Prashant, we've got to wrap it up. We're a little bit past an hour. I'd like to thank you so much for taking the time to hop on. And for those of our viewers that don't know, Carmelo and myself, we've been working with Prashant for a little while, designing the economic concepts behind the token economy that Spheron is incorporating into the product ecosystem. We've invested in the company, and we're back in the company. We believe in what Prashant's doing, and I think we align in a lot of things, specifically around sustainable business models and providing easy, accessible solutions to a very fastly growing and emerging technology industry. And so before we wrap it up, Prashant, we're going to ask you one final question that we always ask all of our interview guests. I'm going to ask Carmelo to go ahead and throw that question your way. But I want to remind all of our viewers and listeners, if you're enjoying this content, make sure you tap that like button and throw us a follow or subscribe. Stick around. We've got much more fun content coming, some more investment eye tests, and some more fun interviews.
You
Carmelo,
always make me
it's
ask it.
yours, man.
All right. All right, then
You
I'm
gotta
gonna do what I did last time, and I'm gonna ask two questions. One,
oh.
this is an easier one, but like, you're an accomplished guy. You've obviously been working for a long time and building your own company. So, what are some words of advice? What's your best tip for somebody that's looking to break into the entrepreneurial space and start their own company? What's some words of advice you could give to that person that's listening right now? And two, what are you most excited or bullish on for the rest of this year or the next several months? Obviously, excluding Spheron, because that would be a boring answer if we choose what we're working on currently. But yeah, those are the last two questions, and we could wrap it up.
First of all, I still don't see myself accomplished yet. So, but I can tell one thing, for all the aspiring entrepreneurs like us and who are already building into the space, is just keep building. Don't look for. So there are two kind of people who look for 5 years time frame. There are people who look for 10 years time frame. There are people who look for only 6 months time frame. And in crypto, generally it is 2 months time frame or 3 months time frame. So um, so depends where you are in your journey. But if you're building something which is futuristic, it will take time, and it will never happen in one bull cycle, two bull cycle, three bull cycle. The bull cycle doesn't place for you. If you are a bull cycle guy, I know a lot of people go very entitled to this philosophy of mine where they build think for bull cycles. We don't. We build think for future. So when you build something for future, you basically like you don't track bull cycles. You track the build process. You track capital inflow. You track all of those things. So just keep building, keep pushing the limits harder, no matter what people say. If you get excited every morning when you wake up to build what you're building today, just keep building. Don't give a fucking shit about what other people are saying. Okay, just keep building. You may fail,
Spicy.
you may win, but nobody knows. Okay, till the time that happens. Even if you fail, you will win because you were passionate about what you were building. Even if you win, you have already won because you were passionate about it. So just do that. Okay. Now coming back to the part about the bullish, I'm very very bullish on the AI x crypto narrative. I'm very bullish on the compute infra altogether. We want to see more compute players coming into the space, legit ones, not the ones which are not like doing anything and they are just replicating what Web2 has already built. Um, we want more people building application layer use cases, like making AI agents deployment easy, bringing autonomy into the ecosystem, binding the tokens into the network in a right way, taking help from Arcane Ventures also to like design their token economics. So for their AI agents and all those stuff. So that's where I'm very very sorry. I think I plugged you still you guys, but you guys have done a great job.
We love it. We love the shill.
Yeah, but yeah, coming back to again, yeah, these are the areas where I'm very 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 bullish on. I cannot take specific names because I just don't do that. Just for because we are a compute and we want to remain neutral as much as possible because compute is not for any chain or any specific things. Um, Compute is for everyone and everyone has a right to access it. So I'll not take any names, but I'm bullish in this industry.
We'll accept that. That's a
I
reasonable
love
reason to not give any names. Stay neutral.
the
Yeah.
Switzerland of compute. Well, again, Prashant, thank you so much for taking the time to join us and speak with us about Spheron. We're very excited about what you guys are doing, and I think the journey and working together has been excellent. Just seeing you guys stick to your principles and do things the right way. It's rare to see founders with such vision and ethics in this space, and so we're really excited to see like what unfolds in the future with Spheron. And for anyone interested in learning more about Spheron, we're going to put the links to the show notes. So make sure you check down there if you're interested in checking out their website or their social channels. And then, Prashant, you got time for one more show. Tell us what's happening with Spheron. I know you got a token launch coming up very soon. Let people know where they can find you and how to access it and all that good stuff.
It's very simple. We have spent a very fair amount of time to like improve our SEO. So you can type Spheron on Google or you can type Spheron on like whatever search engine you are using, AI agent, search engine, or whatever agent. Just type Spheron, you will find our name, Spheron, which will pop up. But ensure that you are not getting faced. So always look out for Spheron.network, which is our official email, website. Then we have Spheron FDN, which is our Twitter account, SPHERON FDN. So ensure that that's only the account which we have. And then once you go in any of those things, scroll down, scroll up, you will find the contacts and everything there. Because that's the place where we take it as a single source of truth for all the redirections. So that's where you can go and find us. You can also find me if you are looking forward to connect with me on Twitter. It's Prashant_XYZ. You can find me there. You can also find me on GitHub. Israek is my GitHub ID. I have also all of those things listed there. You can find me on LinkedIn. Also, Prashant Maurya. You can type it there. And yeah, coming back to the token side, we will be launching soon. And all of these things all the stars are getting aligned to ensure that that happens. So if you are excited and want to learn more about how tokens and everything is going to be like playing the roles, we are launching our small site, which is very dedicated to like what is our manifesto, what is Spheron doing, ecosystem stuff, which is not website. Website is more about the marketing and all of those stuff. But we are launching one more very dedicated page, which is more focused on letting people answer a question to be answered very easily, like what is vision of Spheron, what is Skynet, what is phase, what is provide, very straightforwardly written in a very common languages so that you can understand it and start diving into Spheron. And to know that, again, follow us on Twitter and LinkedIn and all of these places. We'll announce it, and then you can go ahead and learn more about it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Prashant. Again, very exciting having you on here. We've got to have you on in the future again soon to talk more about the unique economics behind Spheron and all the different nodes and the verifier system. But yeah, again, thank you for all of our viewers for tuning in and checking out Spheron. Again, tap that like button, throw us a follow. We'll be back for some more content. And until then, stay safe, y'all. Ciao.
Cheers.